The cream-colored envelope sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I opened it. I knew what it was. My son Daniel had called 2 weeks earlier to tell me his wedding invitation was coming in the mail. He sounded happy, excited even. He said he'd finally found the one, that he was ready to settle down, that he wanted me to meet her before the wedding. I should have been thrilled. Daniel was 28 years old, successful, kind, everything a mother could hope for. But something in his voice made me uneasy. A hesitation when I asked her name, a quick change of subject when I asked how they met, red flags I couldn't quite explain. When I finally opened that envelope on a Thursday afternoon, standing in the same kitchen where I'd raised Daniel alone for 18 years, my world stopped. The bride's name, printed in elegant script at the top of the invitation, wasn't just familiar. It was impossible. Emma Catherine Miller, my daughter's name. The daughter I gave up for adoption 26 years ago. My name is Margaret Foster. I'm 52 years old, and I need to tell you the most complicated, painful, and ultimately beautiful story of my life. Because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about family, fate, and the choices we make when we're too young to understand their consequences. Let me start at the beginning. I got pregnant when I was 18 years old. It was 1990. I was a senior in high school, and the father was my boyfriend, Tommy, who was 19 and working at his dad's auto shop. We'd been together for 2 years, and I thought we were in love. The kind of love teenagers think will last forever. When I told Tommy I was pregnant, he panicked. I mean, completely panicked. He said we were too young, that he wasn't ready to be a father, that this would ruin both our lives. He offered to pay for an abortion, said it would be the easiest solution, that we could pretend it never happened. But I couldn't do it. I don't judge anyone who makes that choice. But for me, it wasn't an option. I felt this life growing inside me, and I couldn't stop it. My mother had died when I was 15, and my father was a functioning alcoholic who barely noticed I existed. I had no one to turn to, no one to help me figure out what to do. Tommy left 2 weeks after I told him. Just packed up and moved to California with some friends. I heard later that he died in a car accident in 1995, but by then I'd already moved on with my life. Or tried to. I was 5 months pregnant when I met Daniel's father, Robert. He was 23, just out of college, working his first real job at an insurance company. We met at a diner where I was waitressing to save money for the baby. He came in every morning for coffee and eggs, and he always left a generous tip. One morning, I dropped a plate and started crying. Just completely broke down in the middle of the diner. The pregnancy hormones, the stress, the fear of doing this alone, it all came crashing down. Robert helped me clean up the broken plate and asked if I was okay. I told him everything. The pregnancy, Tommy leaving, my plan to give the baby up for adoption because I had no way to support a child, and he didn't run. He sat with me for 2 hours after my shift ended and listened to everything. And then he said something that changed my life. What if you didn't have to do this alone? Robert and I got married 3 weeks before I gave birth. It wasn't a romantic proposal, it was practical. He said he'd always wanted to be a father, that he made enough money to support both of us, that he'd love my baby as his own. I was 7 months pregnant, terrified and desperate, so I said yes. I gave birth to a baby girl on October 15th, 1990. Emma Catherine. I chose the name months before, writing it in my journal over and over, imagining what she might look like. She had dark hair like me, Tommy's blue eyes, and the tiniest fingers I'd ever seen. I held her for 2 hours after she was born. The adoption agency had told me it would be easier if I didn't, that bonding would make it harder to let go. But I needed those 2 hours. I needed to memorize her face, to tell her I loved her, to explain why I was doing this. You deserve better than what I can give you right now, I whispered to her. You deserve parents who are ready, who have a stable home, who can give you everything. I'm 18 years old and I have nothing, but I love you so much. I need you to know that. I love you so much, it's breaking me apart. The adoption was closed. That's what I'd agreed to. No contact, no updates, no way to ever find each other. The agency said it was cleaner that way, better for everyone. I signed the papers with tears running down my face, and then they took her away. I left the hospital with empty arms and went home to Robert. We never talked about Emma. It was like an unspoken agreement. That chapter of my life was closed, sealed shut, locked away in a place I couldn't access without falling apart. 3 months later, I got pregnant again, this time with Robert's child. Daniel was born in July 1991, almost exactly 9 months after Emma. I was 19 years old with a new baby, a husband I barely knew, and a daughter I'd never see again. Robert was a good father to Daniel, a good husband to me, in his way. We weren't passionate or romantic, but we were partners. We built a life together. He worked, I stayed home with Daniel, and we pretended everything was normal. But nothing was normal. I thought about Emma every single day, every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone. When Daniel took his first steps, I wondered if Emma had walked yet. When Daniel started kindergarten, I wondered what school Emma went to. When Daniel graduated high school, I wondered if Emma was graduating too. Robert died when Daniel was 15. A heart attack at 49 years old, sudden, unexpected, devastating. And suddenly I was alone with a teenage son and all the grief I'd been carrying for 15 years. Daniel and I became close after Robert died. Really close. It was just the two of us against the world. I went back to school, got my degree, became a teacher. Daniel was brilliant, driven, kind. He got a full scholarship to college, graduated with honors, got a great job in finance in Chicago. He dated occasionally through his 20s, but nothing serious. He'd call me every week and tell me about his life, his friends, his work. He never mentioned anyone special until about 8 months ago. "Mom, I met someone," he said on the phone one Sunday night. "Someone really special." "That's wonderful, honey," I said, genuinely happy for him. "What's her name?" There was a pause, a long pause. "Emma. Her name is Emma." My heart stopped for just a second, but I told myself it was a common name. Lots of girls are named Emma. It didn't mean anything. "Tell me about her," I said. "She's amazing, Mom." "She's smart, funny, beautiful. She works in marketing. She's 26, grew up here in Chicago. I've never felt this way about anyone before." "When do I get to meet her?" I asked in another pause. "Soon. I promise. I just want to make sure it's serious first. You know how you are." I laughed, but something felt off. Daniel had always been eager to introduce me to the girls he dated. Why was he being so cautious now? Over the next few months, Daniel's calls became less frequent. When we did talk, he'd mention Emma constantly, but never offered to let me meet her. Every time I suggested coming to Chicago for a visit, he had an excuse. Work was busy, Emma was traveling. They had plans that weekend. Then 6 weeks ago, he called with big news. "Mom, I proposed. Emma said yes, we're getting married in 3 months." "That's wonderful," I said, trying to match his excitement while feeling hurt that I still hadn't met her. "When can I meet my future daughter-in-law?" "At the wedding," he said quickly. "I know it's unconventional, but Emma's family's complicated and we decided to keep everything small and simple. Just immediate family. You'll love her, I promise." "Daniel, I can't meet my son's wife for the first time at his wedding. Mom, please. Trust me on this. It's just easier this way." I didn't understand, but I didn't push. Daniel was an adult. If this was how he wanted to do things, I had to respect that, even though it hurt, even though it made no sense. So I waited for the invitation. 3 weeks later, it arrived. That cream-colored envelope with my name written in calligraphy. I left it on the counter for 3 days because part of me was afraid to open it, afraid of what it might say, though I couldn't have explained why. When I finally opened it the Thursday afternoon, I pulled out the heavy cardstock and read the words printed there. "Together with their families, Daniel Robert Foster and Emma Catherine Miller, request the honor of your presence at their wedding ceremony." Emma Catherine Miller, born October 15th, 1990, Chicago, Illinois. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and Googled her name. Her LinkedIn profile came up first: marketing manager at a tech company, education at Northwestern University, and there, in her profile picture, was a young woman with dark hair and blue eyes who looked exactly like I did at her age. I sat down at the kitchen table. Before my legs gave out. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. The odds were astronomical, impossible, but the more I looked at her picture, the more certain I became. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her smile, the way her hair fell across her forehead. I was looking at my daughter, the daughter I gave up 26 years ago, the daughter who was now engaged to marry my son. I need you to understand something. Daniel didn't know about Emma. I'd never told him. Robert and I agreed when Daniel was born that we wouldn't tell him about the baby I'd given up. We thought it would be confusing, that it would make him feel like he wasn't enough, that it was better to just move forward and leave the past behind. So Daniel had no idea he had a half-sister out there somewhere. And Emma, adopted as an infant, probably had no idea she was adopted at all. Or if she did know, she certainly didn't know who her birth mother was. They had no way of knowing they were related. No way of knowing that the love they'd found was impossible in every way that mattered. I sat at that table for 2 hours, staring at Emma's picture on my phone, trying to figure out what to do. I couldn't let them get married, that was clear. But how do you stop a wedding when telling the truth means destroying everything? If I told Daniel the truth, I'd have to admit I'd lied to him his entire life. That he had a sister I gave away, that the woman he loved, the woman he wanted to spend his life with, was that sister. If I told Emma, I'd be shattering her world too, telling her she was adopted, that her birth mother was her fiancé's mother, that her entire engagement was built on a horrible coincidence. And both of them would hate me. Daniel for lying, Emma for giving her up, both for letting it get this far. But what choice did I have? I couldn't let my children marry each other. The genetics alone made it impossible. And even if they decided not to have children, how could they stay together knowing they were siblings? How could they look at each other the same way? I picked up my phone and called Daniel. It went to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. I sent a text. Need to talk to you urgently. Call me as soon as you can. It's important. An hour later, he called back. Hey, Mom, sorry I missed your calls. What's up? I need to see you, I said. And can you come home this weekend? It's important. I can't, Mom. Emma and I are meeting with the wedding planner. Can it wait? No, I said, and I can't wait. Daniel, I need you to trust me. Come home, please. Don't ask questions. Just come home. The urgency in my voice must have scared him because he agreed. Okay, I'll drive down Saturday morning. But Mom, you're freaking me out. What's going on? Saturday, I said. I'll explain everything Saturday. I hung up and immediately started researching. I needed to be sure. I needed confirmation that Emma was who I thought she was before I blew up everyone's lives. I called the adoption agency I'd used 26 years ago. They told me the records were sealed, that they couldn't give me any information. I explained it was an emergency, that it was a matter of life and death. They said they were sorry, but the law was the law. I tried searching adoption registries where birth parents and adopted children could find each other. Nothing. Emma either didn't know she was adopted or had never tried to find me. I looked up Emma's parents on social media, David and Christine Miller. They looked like nice people, normal. Happy family photos, vacation pictures, posts about their daughter's accomplishments. Nothing that suggested Emma knew the truth about her birth. Friday night, I didn't sleep at all. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, playing out every possible conversation in my head. How do you tell your son that the woman he loves is his sister? What words could possibly make that okay? Saturday morning, Daniel arrived at 10 a.m. He hugged me at the door like always, but I could see the worry in his eyes. Mom, what's going on? You look terrible. Are you sick? Sit down, I said. Please, just sit down. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd opened his wedding invitation 2 days earlier. I had a folder in front of me. Inside were printouts, Emma's LinkedIn profile, photos I'd found of her online, the original hospital bracelet from when she was born that I'd kept all these years, hidden in a box in my closet, and a letter I'd written to her the day after she was born, sealed in an envelope I'd never sent. Daniel, I need to tell you something. I started. It's something I should have told you a long time ago, something that's going to change everything. He was looking at me like I'd lost my mind. Mom, you're scaring me. When I was 18 years old, before I met your father, I had a baby, a little girl. I was too young, too unprepared, too alone. So I gave her up for adoption. Daniel's face went white. What? You have another kid? I have a sister? Had, I said. I had a sister. I gave her up in a closed adoption. I never saw her again after the day she was born. Your father and I decided not to tell you because we thought it would be easier. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I never told you." He was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then he said, "Okay. I mean, that's a lot to take in, but okay. Why are you telling me this now? Why the emergency?" I pushed the folder across the table. "Open it." He opened the folder and looked at the printouts. Emma's LinkedIn profile, her birthday, her birthplace. He looked at the photos. Then he looked at me, and I watched the realization dawn on his face. "No," he said, "no. This isn't possible." "I didn't know," I said, and I was crying now. "I had no idea. I didn't know her name was Emma. I didn't know she grew up in Chicago. I didn't know until I opened your wedding invitation and saw her full name, Emma Catherine Miller, born October 15th, 1990. The same day, the same hospital where I gave birth to my daughter." "This can't be real," Daniel said, his voice shaking. "You're wrong. You have to be wrong. This is just a coincidence. Emma's not adopted. She would have told me." "Look at her," I said, pointing to the photos. "Really look at her. She looks exactly like I did at her age. She has your father's eyes. She has my hair. Daniel, she's your half-sister." He stood up so fast his chair fell over. "No, no, I don't believe this. Emma would know if she was adopted. Her parents would have told her." "Some parents don't," I said. "Some parents wait until the child is older or never tell them at all. You need to talk to her. You need to find out the truth before the wedding." "The wedding is in 3 months," he said, and he looked lost, broken. "We've already sent invitations. We put down deposits. Her parents are flying in from Seattle. This isn't happening. This can't be happening." "I'm so sorry," I said. "If I had known, if there was any way I could have prevented this, I would have. But you can't marry her, Daniel. Even if you love her, even if she's perfect, you can't marry your sister." He grabbed his car keys and walked to the door. "I need to go. I need to think. I need to talk to Emma." "Daniel, wait." But he was already gone. I heard his car start in the driveway and pull away. I sat at the kitchen table, alone with the folder full of evidence, and cried harder than I'd cried since the day I gave Emma away. 3 days passed. Daniel didn't call. He didn't text. I tried reaching him multiple times, but he'd blocked my number. I was going crazy with worry and guilt. What if I was wrong? What if it was just a horrible coincidence and I'd destroyed my relationship with my son for nothing? But I couldn't be wrong. Everything fit. The birthday, the location, the resemblance. It was too perfect to be coincidence. On the 4th day, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Daniel standing there with a woman. She was beautiful, even more so in person than in her photos. Dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, blue eyes red from crying, dressed in jeans and a sweater. Emma, my daughter, standing on my porch after 26 years. "Can we come in?" Daniel asked, and I stepped aside and they walked into my living room. We all sat down, an awkward triangle of impossible family connections. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Finally, Emma said, "I need to hear it from you. Daniel told me everything you told him, but I need to hear it from you." Her voice was shaky but strong. I could hear myself in her voice, see myself in the way she held her shoulders back, determined to be brave even when her world was falling apart. "I was 18 when I got pregnant with you," I said. "I was alone, scared, and had no way to support a baby. Your biological father had left. I made the hardest decision of my life and gave you up for adoption because I wanted you to have a better life than I could give you." "And you never tried to find me?" Emma asked. "It was a closed adoption. I wasn't allowed to. And honestly, I thought it would be easier for you if I didn't. I thought you'd have a better life not knowing about me." Emma was crying now. "My parents never told me I was adopted. I found out 3 days ago when I went through their safe looking for my birth certificate. I was going to need it for the marriage license. I found adoption papers instead." My heart broke for her. "I'm so sorry you had to find out that way." "I called my mom," Emma continued. "My adoptive mom. I demanded the truth. She told me everything. That they'd adopted me as an infant. That my birth mother was young and couldn't keep me. That it was supposed to be closed. That they weren't supposed to tell me unless I asked directly. She said they were going to tell me eventually, but there never seemed to be a right time. She looked at Daniel, then back at me. When she told me when and where I was born, I knew. I just knew, because Daniel had told me about you, about how his dad died when he was young, about how he was born in July 1991, about how you'd been married to his dad since before he was born. We did the math, Daniel said quietly. If you got married to my dad when you were 7 months pregnant with Emma, and then I was born 9 months later, that means Emma and I are both your biological children. That's right, I said. Emma is your half-sister. Same mother, different fathers. The three of us sat in silence, letting the weight of that truth settle over us. We got a DNA test, Emma said finally. Overnight results. It came back this morning. We're siblings. Half siblings, but siblings. I'm so sorry, I said, and I was crying too. I never wanted this. I never imagined this could happen. The odds are so astronomical. But it did happen, Daniel interrupted. It happened, and now we have to figure out what to do about it. Emma stood up and walked to the window. She stood there with her back to us for a long time. When she turned around, her face was composed, decided. I love him, she said, looking at me. I love Daniel more than I've ever loved anyone. He's my best friend, my partner, my everything. And now you're telling me I can't have him because of biology? Because of a decision you made 26 years ago? Emma, I started, but she cut me off. No. Let me finish. My whole life, I felt like something was missing, like there was this hole in my heart I couldn't explain. I had good parents, a good life, but I always felt like I was searching for something. And then I met Daniel, and that hole filled up. For the first time in my life, I felt complete. And now you're taking that away. I'm not taking anything away, I said. Genetics is taking it away. You can't marry your brother. You can't have children with your brother. Even if you could legally do it, which you can't, the risk. We don't have to have biological children, Emma said. We can adopt. We can use donors. There are options. And what about the law? I asked. What about the fact that in most states, it's illegal for siblings to marry, even the half-siblings? We could move, Daniel said. There are countries where it's not illegal if you didn't grow up together. France, Spain, Portugal. We could go somewhere else. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised alone for 13 years after Robert died, and I saw desperation in his eyes. He was willing to leave everything behind for this woman who was his sister. And what happens when people find out? I asked. What happens when her parents find out? When your friends find out, you'll be pariahs. You'll lose your jobs, your community, everything. Then we won't tell anyone, Emma said. We'll just say, we decided not to get married. We'll live together as partners. No one has to know. You'll know, I said. Every day of your lives, you'll know. And it will eat away at you. It will change how you look at each other. You can't unknow this. Emma sat down again, and now she was crying openly. So what are you saying? That we just have to break up? That we have to walk away from each other because of something neither of us had any control over? I'm saying there's no good answer here, I said. I'm saying I'm sorry. I'm saying I wish I could go back and change everything. But I can't. None of us can. Daniel took Emma's hand. They looked at each other, and I saw so much love there. Real, deep, true love. The kind of love most people spend their whole lives searching for. And I was the one destroying it. Can I talk to Emma alone? Daniel asked me. I nodded and left them in the living room. I went to my bedroom and closed the door, but I could hear their voices through the wall. Quiet, intense conversation that went on for over an hour. When they finally called me back, they were both calm, too calm. We've decided, Daniel said. My heart sank. I knew what they were going to say. They were going to stay together anyway. They were going to ignore biology and law and society and do what they wanted. And I was going to lose them both. But that's not what he said. We're going to take some time apart, Daniel continued. Emma's going to move back to Seattle for a while to be near her parents while she figures things out. I'm going to stay in Chicago. We're calling off the wedding. I felt relief and grief in equal measure. I think that's the right decision. But Emma said, looking at me with red eyes. I need you to understand something. You're my birth mother. You gave me life. But you're also the person who made it impossible for me to be with the man I love. I don't know if I can forgive you for that. Her words hit me like a physical blow, but I nodded. I understand. I want to know you, she said, eventually. When I'm ready, I want to understand who I am and where I came from. But not right now. Right now, I just need space. Take all the time you need, I said. They left together, Daniel's arm around Emma's shoulders. I watched from the window as they got in his car and drove away. And I sat down in my living room and cried for the daughter I'd lost twice, for the son who'd just had his heart broken, and for the impossible situation none of us asked for. The next few weeks were horrible. Daniel wouldn't talk to me. Emma had blocked my number. I felt like I was drowning in guilt and grief. I'd done the right thing by telling them the truth. I knew that. But it didn't make it hurt any less, and I threw myself into work, teaching summer school to keep busy. I avoided social media because I didn't want to see photos of Daniel and Emma, didn't want to know what they were doing or how they were coping. I just existed day by day, waiting for something to change. 6 weeks after that terrible day in my living room, Emma called me. I almost didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number, but something made me pick up. Hello. It's Emma, she said. Her voice was different, stronger somehow. I've been in therapy, working through everything. My therapist suggested I might want to talk to you if you're willing. I'm willing, I said. I'm so willing. Whenever you want, whatever you need. Can I come over today? She arrived 2 hours later. She looked different. She'd cut her hair short, and she had a calmness about her that hadn't been there before. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where all of this has started, and she said, I need to hear the whole story. Everything, from the beginning. And so I told her about Tommy, about getting pregnant at 18, about being alone and scared, about meeting Robert and the practical marriage, about the 2 hours I held her after she was born, about how much it hurt to let her go, about thinking of her every single day for 26 years. She listened without an interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. I'm angry at you, she said finally. I'm angry that you gave me up. I'm angry that you didn't tell Daniel about me. I'm angry that you stayed silent until it was too late. If you'd told Daniel years ago, maybe we never would have gotten together. Maybe we would have met as siblings instead of strangers. Maybe none of this would have happened. You're right, I said. You're absolutely right. I made so many mistakes. I thought I was protecting everyone, but I was just protecting myself from pain. But, Emma continued, I'm also grateful. My parents, my adoptive parents, they gave me a good life. They love me. They gave me opportunities I might not have had. And even though this whole situation is a nightmare, I'm glad I know the truth now. I'm glad I know where I came from. What about Daniel? I asked carefully. Her face fell. That's the hardest part. I still love him. I love him so much it physically hurts. But my therapist helped me understand that what we had, as beautiful as it was partly based on a subconscious recognition. We were drawn to each other because we're family, because we share DNA. It felt like fate, like we were meant to be together, but it was really just biology. Have you talked to him? She nodded. We met for coffee last week. First time since we decided to take a break. It was awkward and painful and necessary. We both agreed that we can't be together romantically. The knowledge changes everything. We can't go back to what we were. I'm so sorry, I said. Stop apologizing, she said, but not unkindly. What's done is done. We can't change it. We can only decide what to do next. What do you want to do next? I asked, and she looked at me, and I saw my own eyes looking back. I want to get to know you. Not as Daniel's mother, but as my birth mother. I want to understand who you are, who I am. I want to build something new from this mess. Over the next year, Emma and I built a relationship. Slowly, carefully, like walking on ice. We met for coffee every few weeks. She told me about her life, her childhood, her dreams. I told her more stories about her birth, about the months I carried her, about the love I felt for her, even though I let her go. Daniel eventually came around too. It took longer with him. He was angry at me for months, barely speaking to me beyond basic pleasantries. But gradually, as he started to heal from the heartbreak, he began to understand why I'd done what I'd done. Emma and Daniel did something I never expected. They decided to maintain a friendship. They recognized that they share something special, even if it couldn't be romantic. They had siblings they never knew about, and they didn't want to lose that connection entirely. I watched them navigate their new relationship as brother and sister. It was awkward at first, stilted conversation and careful boundaries. But over time, they found their rhythm. They could talk about their relationship honestly, grieve what they'd lost, and appreciate what they'd gained. About a year and a half after the truth came out, Emma met someone new, a man named Marcus, who worked in her building. They started dating, and she called me one night, excited and nervous. I told him everything, she said, about being adopted, about finding out about you and Daniel, about the almost wedding. I figured he should know before things got serious. What did he say? I asked, and he said everyone has a story. This one's just more interesting than most. I met Marcus a few months later. He was kind, funny, and clearly head over heels for Emma. At dinner, he said to me, Emma told me you two are still getting to know each other. I think it's amazing that you're both willing to work through something so complicated. She makes it easy, I said, looking at Emma. She's an extraordinary person. She gets that from you, Marcus said. Emma laughed. Let's not go crazy. I get my good qualities from having two sets of parents who love me. That's more than most people get. 2 years after that conversation in my living room that changed everything, Emma and Marcus got engaged. When Emma called to tell me, I felt that old familiar fear, but then she said, and I want you there. At the wedding, not hiding in the back, actually there. Are you sure? I asked. I'm sure. You're my birth mother. That's part of my story. I'm not hiding it anymore. The wedding was beautiful. Small, intimate, perfect. Emma's adoptive parents were there, gracious and kind. Daniel was there too, walking Emma down the aisle alongside her adoptive father. Two fathers, one on each side, both part of her story. When the officiant asked who gives this woman to be married, Emma's adoptive father said, her mother and I do. And then he looked at me in the front row and nodded, including me in that moment, even though I had no right to it. I cried through the whole ceremony. Happy tears, sad tears, complicated tears. Emma looked radiant. Marcus looked at her like she was his whole world. And for the first time since I'd opened that wedding invitation 2 years earlier, I felt like maybe everything was going to be okay. At the reception, Emma asked me to dance. We swayed to the music, not really dancing, just being together. Thank you, she said. For what? For telling the truth. It would have been easier to stay quiet, to let us get married and deal with the consequences later. But you didn't. You chose the hard thing because it was the right thing. It didn't feel right at the time, I admitted. It just felt like I was destroying everything. You were, she said. But sometimes things need to be destroyed before they can be rebuilt into something better. Daniel came over when the song ended. Mind if I cut in? Emma stepped aside, and suddenly I was dancing with my son for the first time in years. You did good, Mom, he said. Did I? Yeah, I was angry for a long time. I thought you'd ruined my life. But you didn't. You saved me from making a mistake that would have followed me forever, even if I couldn't see it at the time. Are you happy? I asked, and I'm getting there, he said. I'm dating someone, actually. Her name is Lauren. She's definitely not related to us, we checked. I laughed, and it felt good. I'd love to meet her. She's here, actually. Emma invited her. I'll introduce you later. As the night went on, I watched Emma and Marcus dance, watched Daniel talk with his girlfriend, watched Emma's two sets of parents mingle and laugh together. I thought about that morning 2 years ago when I'd opened the wedding invitation and read my daughter's name. I thought about the pain and chaos that followed. I thought about all the ways this could have gone differently. But I also thought about what Emma had said, about things needing to be destroyed before they could be rebuilt, about truth being more important than comfort, about family being complicated and messy and sometimes impossible, but worth fighting for anyway. Near the end of the night, Emma pulled me aside. I have something for you, she said, handing me a small wrap box. I opened it to find a silver necklace with 3 charms: a heart, a star, and a circle. The heart is for the love that brought me into the world, Emma explained. The star is for the light you gave me when you told the truth. And the circle is for the family we've built, complete even though it's not traditional. I put the necklace on with shaking hands. It's perfect. You're perfect. I'm not perfect, she said, smiling. But I'm whole now. For the first time in my life, I understand where I came from. I know all the pieces of my story. That's the greatest gift you could have given me. Even though it cost you Daniel? She looked across the room where Daniel was laughing with Lauren, his arm around her shoulders. It cost me one version of Daniel. But I gained a brother. I gained you. I gained truth. That's worth more than a fantasy based on lies. Later that night, after most of the guests had left, I found myself sitting at a table with both Emma's adoptive mother, Christine, and Daniel. It was strange and wonderful and awkward all at once. Thank you, Christine said to me quietly, for what you did 26 years ago, for giving us Emma. She's been the greatest joy of our lives. Thank you for loving her, I replied, for giving her everything I couldn't. And thank you for stopping the wedding, Christine continued. David and I found out about Emma and Daniel's relationship 2 weeks before you did. We saw them together at a family party, and something about the way they looked at each other seemed off. We did some digging, put the pieces together. We were trying to figure out how to tell them when you beat us to it. I stared at her. You knew? She nodded. We knew. And we were terrified. We'd kept the adoption secret for so long, we didn't know how to tell Emma without destroying her. But you did it. You told the hard truth. You saved them both. Daniel reached over and squeezed my hand. We're going to be okay, Mom. All of us. It's going to take time, but we're going to be okay. He was right. It did take time. Lots of time. The first few years were rocky, filled with therapy sessions and difficult conversations and moments of grief for what could have been. Daniel eventually married Lauren. Their wedding was 3 years after Emma's, and this time I helped plan it. Emma was there too, standing on Daniel's side of the wedding party, because she was his sister and that's where she belonged. Emma and Marcus had their first child 2 years after they got married, a little girl they named Sophie. When Emma asked me to be in the delivery room, I sobbed. I got to hold my granddaughter in the same hospital where I'd given birth to Emma 28 years earlier, the circle completing itself in the most unexpected way. Daniel and Lauren had twins a year later, a boy and a girl, Andrew and Lily. Both sets of grandchildren grew up knowing they had cousins, knowing their parents had a complicated history, knowing that family doesn't always look the way you expect it to. I retired from teaching when I turned 60. Emma threw me a party, and Daniel gave a speech about what a great mother I'd been, how I'd sacrifice everything to raise him alone, how I'd always put truth and integrity first, even when it cost me. My mom made the hardest decision twice, he said. Once when she gave Emma up for adoption, because she wanted her to have a better life, and once when she told us the truth, even though she knew it would hurt us. Both times she chose love over comfort. That's the kind of person she is. I cried during that speech. I cried a lot in those years. Happy tears mostly. Tears of relief that we'd all survive the storm and come out stronger. On Emma's 30th birthday, we had a family dinner at my house. Both my children, their spouses, my 4 grandchildren, Emma's adoptive parents, all of us together, this patchwork family built from impossible circumstances. After dinner, Emma stood up and tapped her glass. I want to say something. 10 years ago, my life exploded. I found out I was adopted, that the man I loved was my brother, that everything I thought I knew was wrong. I was angry. I was heartbroken. I wanted to blame someone, and the easiest person to blame was Margaret. She looked at me. But over these 10 years, I've learned that life is complicated. That people make decisions based on the information they have at the time. That sometimes love means letting go. That sometimes the truth hurts, but it's still the truth. Margaret didn't ruin my life. She saved it. She gave me life twice. Once when she gave birth to me, and once when she had the courage to tell me who I really was. And now I have this. She gestured around the table. I have two mothers who love me. I have a brother who knows me better than anyone. I have a husband who accepts all the messy parts of my story. I have children who will grow up knowing that family is about love, not just biology. So thank you, Margaret. Thank you for being brave enough to tell the truth. Thank you for loving me enough to let me go, and for loving me enough to find me again. Everyone at the table was crying by then. Happy tears, healing tears, grateful tears. That night, after everyone had gone home, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea and thought about the last 10 years, about the day I opened that wedding invitation and felt my world collapse, about the impossible choice I'd had to make, about the family we'd somehow built from the wreckage. I thought about the what ifs. What if I'd never told them? What if I'd let them get married, let them find out years later, after they'd had children? What if I'd told Daniel about Emma when he was younger, before he ever had the chance to meet her? But dwelling on what ifs was pointless. We can't change the past. We can only decide how we respond to it. My phone buzzed with a text. It was from Daniel. Thanks for dinner, Mom. Love you. Then another text from Emma. Had a great time tonight. Let's do it again soon. Love you and love you both, my children, telling me they love me. Not despite what had happened, but because of everything we'd been through together. I responded to both of them, then put my phone away and just sat in the quiet evening. The crickets were chirping, the stars were coming out. Somewhere down the street, a dog was barking. Normal sounds, a normal night, a normal life built from the most abnormal circumstances imaginable. People ask me sometimes if I regret giving Emma up for adoption. The answer is complicated. I regret the circumstances that made it necessary. I regret that I couldn't keep her. I regret the years we lost. But I don't regret the decision itself, because it gave her Christine and David, gave her a stable childhood, gave her opportunities I couldn't have provided. People also ask if I regret telling Daniel and Emma the truth, if I wish I just kept quiet and let them get married. The answer to that is simple. Number, never. Not for a single second. Because the truth, as painful as it was, set us all free. Free from lies, from secrets, from a future that would have been built on a foundation of sand. The truth gave us the chance to build something real, something honest, something that could withstand storms. Was it easy? Number. Was it painful? Yes. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Last month, on what would have been Emma and Daniel's wedding anniversary if they'd gone through with it, Emma called me. I was just thinking, she said. 5 years ago today, I was supposed to marry Daniel. I was supposed to walk down the aisle and promise forever to my brother. How insane is that? Pretty insane, I agreed. But you know what? I wouldn't change it, any of it. Because that path led me to Marcus. It led me to understanding who I really am. It led me to having you in my life. If I'd married Daniel, I'd have missed all of that. You're much wiser than I was at your age, I told her. I had a good teacher, she said. You taught me that sometimes the right thing is the hard thing, that truth matters more than comfort, that family is about showing up and being honest and loving people even when it's complicated. After we hung up, I went to my closet and pulled out an old box. Inside was the hospital bracelet from Emma's birth, the letter I'd written her that I never sent, and now a photo from her wedding to Marcus, a photo of all of us together. My two children, their spouses, their children, all of us smiling, all of us whole. I added a new item to the box. The necklace Emma had given me at her wedding, the one with 3 charms. I took it off my neck and placed it carefully in the box with everything else. Not because I didn't want to wear it anymore, but because I wanted to preserve it. Someday, maybe Sophie or Lily or Andrew would ask about their family history, and I would pull out this box and show them. Show them the bracelet and the letter and the necklace and the photo, and I would tell them the truth. The whole complicated, messy, beautiful truth about how families are built from love and sacrifice and impossible coincidences and hard choices. I would tell them about the day I gave their grandmother up for adoption because I loved her too much to keep her. About the day their uncle almost married their mother because neither of them knew they were siblings. about the day I had to choose between protecting my secret and protecting my children. I would tell them that life is rarely simple, that sometimes love means letting go, that sometimes the right choice feels like the wrong one, that sometimes you have to destroy everything to build something better. And I would tell them that through it all, through the pain and the confusion and the anger and the grief, we chose each other. We chose truth. We chose love. That's what family is. Not just biology, not just tradition, not just the easy path. Family is the people who show up when everything falls apart. The people who tell you the truth even when it hurts. The people who love you not in spite of the complicated parts, but because of them. I put the box back in the closet and went downstairs. Tomorrow, I was having lunch with Emma. Next week, I was babysitting Daniel's twins. Next month, we were all going on a family vacation together. All of us, the family that almost wasn't. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Emma standing there, holding Sophie's hand. "I know we're having lunch tomorrow," Emma said, "but Sophie wanted to see Grandma Margaret. I hope that's okay." "It's perfect," I said, scooping up my granddaughter. "Come in, both of you." And they did. They came in and we made cookies. And Sophie told me about her day, and Emma and I talked about everything and nothing. Just a normal evening with my daughter and granddaughter. A gift I never thought I'd have. When they left, Sophie hugged me tight and said, "I love you, Grandma." "I love you too, sweetheart." Emma hugged me at the door. "See you tomorrow, Mom." Mom. Not Margaret. Mom. I closed the door and stood in my hallway, in this house where I'd raised Daniel alone, where I'd opened that terrible wedding invitation, where my life had fallen apart and been rebuilt into something I never could have imagined. And I smiled. Because despite everything, despite all the pain and the impossible choices and the complications, I had this. I had my children. I had my grandchildren. I had truth and love and family. I had opened my son's wedding invitation and realized the bride's name was my daughter. And somehow, impossibly, we'd all survived it. More than survived. We'd thrived. The road had been hard. The choices had been painful. The truth had cost us all something. But in the end, we'd found our way to each other, to this complicated, beautiful, imperfect family, and that was worth everything.